Hello everybody, welcome to another Ask Me Anything for the CrossFit Linchpin private track, specifically the closed Facebook group. Do these every Thursday. Members submit questions, other members upvote them, and the most popular ones get answered live each week. So I've got them open, I've got my notes, I've got some shout outs for the end, so life's good. I've got some coffee that I'm almost done with, and we'll just dive right in. Here we go. So the first my dog is just being bizarre. Okay, he finally laid down. I think he turned in a circle about 15 times. That was weird. Okay, first most upvoted question is from Cindy M, and it's regarding hero workouts. Let's see. Do you know how each hero workout comes about? We all know there's a real person behind the workout, but how is each workout shaped? Is it based on that person's favorite workout? Is it something they created when they were alive and working out? Just curious how these workouts come to be. Sure, yeah, great question. So, long story short, I'm quite familiar with this from back at my time with CrossFit. And, what's sad, to stay on the topic, is how many military members, first responders, etc., lose their lives in training or in conflict or in the line of duty or whatnot. Everybody would probably be shocked by the amount of hero workout requests that just cross everyone's desk. It's sad that many people have passed away and continue to pass away. And so that's an interesting conundrum in and of itself, right? Because you don't want to say no to a hero workout, but the truth is, and I'm not lying, there's such a crazy amount that come in that every day could be a hero workout, and that's not appropriate either for just general training, etc., etc. So it's this interesting juggling act. It's a tricky little situation there. But getting back to the question, if somebody passes away and then their friend or family member or whatnot knows that they were a CrossFit or something along those lines, and an email would get sent in kind of with some backstory on the individual, what happened, etc., etc. And if that was to advance forward and actually become a hero workout, then yes. I mean, if this person had a workout that maybe they created, they loved, and it was, legit and solid and etc., etc., well, there's a chance that that workout as is could be used as their hero workout. That wasn't particularly common. It was just, so-and-so was a CrossFitter, loved to work out, and then the person who is submitting the email on the behalf of the deceased would most of the time include what they liked to do, favorite movements, whatever it happened to be. So based upon that knowledge, and then if it worked out, and often you could make it work out, you try to take some numbers around this individual, maybe when they were born, their age, the day that they passed away, or some sort of numerical rep scheme, and see if you could, with that information and knowing what they liked to do, for example, create a workout that was appropriate and made sense and all that. So that's the general gist of how that works. And I've created several that live on to this day on CrossFit.com, and so I'm quite intimately familiar with that process. And you take it very, very seriously. But like I said, it was shocking how many requests would come in. Sad, really. So let's see. And yeah, it's a crazy topic, to be honest with you, and especially hits home as a veteran. Okay, next question was from Chris W. Most upvoted question. Chris W. Here we go. All right. I think people will benefit from this question. Should squat technique be altered for the different squatting movements? Back squat, overhead squat, front squat, thrusters, wall ball, snatch, clean, etc. If so, how? wider or narrower, deeper or shallower, or does a perfect squat apply to all squatting movements? A little bit of an edit and a note, a bit of my thought process behind this question. Going A to G, butt to grass, seems to help with the stability for my snatch and my clean and helps me stay upright. But going butt to grass hurts my back for back squat and seems to be too much unnecessary range of motion on my thrusters. Also, leaning forward more on my back squat seems to move more weight, but that hurts my back. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Okay, great question. So, let's see. I think there might be a couple different answers to that based upon the overwhelming majority of people watching and listening to this, for lack of a better way to categorize ourselves. We're recreational athletes looking to improve our long-term health and fitness, keep our body happy and safe and healthy so that we feel good, live a great life, and that's our goal. And so for most of us, I think it's a relatively simple answer. Now you might then meet some absolutely upper tier level power lifter or Olympic lifter that you're watching walk on stage and win medals, and they have these slight nuances and tweaks based upon this particular movement to that. That's not us. And that's horrifically unnecessary for most of us to even approach that level, quite frankly. So I'm going to answer this for what most of us are. The recreational athlete, the CrossFitter, looking to become the best version of ourselves and stay happy and safe while doing it. Here we go. So, squatting technique, should we alter it for different types of squatting movements? Roughly speaking, you hear roughly that a shoulder width stance, sure, a little wiggle room in or out for some athletes, body types, limb lengths, etc., might be there. But roughly speaking, a shoulder width stance, or somewhere right around there, is going to serve everybody watching this video profoundly well in darn near every single below parallel situation. So that's the precursor right there. Now, taking one or two steps back from your question, I would encourage everybody hearing this or listening or contemplating this to frame it in the broader context of, why are we even doing any of these movements? Why are we squatting? Or, and if it's not a back squat, a thruster, a wall ball, an air squat, a lunge, an overhead squat, you name it. Why are we going below parallel? There's the question. And then if you can answer that question, it helps lead you to the proper answer, I think, anyway. So, big picture, why are we even squatting, regardless of movement selection? And I would say it's to develop as much musculature as possible around the greatest range of motion possible, because the greatest amount of developed musculature around the greatest range of motion possible will serve you the best in life, sport, health, etc. Now, I say the greatest range of motion possible, but there should be something that I hope is profoundly obvious in that. But if it's not, I'll state it just so we're totally clear. The greatest range of motion possible squatting is what we want, with proper form and you being pain-free. There it is. The goal is to develop the greatest range of motion possible in your squat with proper form, and you should be pain-free. And if anything violates those, it should be an immediate red flag and something that's addressed, and it should supersede anything else. And what I mean by that is, okay, you have potentially not you as in Chris, but you as in this, any athlete that we're talking about. Okay, you have identified some way maybe messing with your stance, messing with your torso angle, messing with anything that allows you to either achieve a greater range of motion or squat more weight, but it causes you pain. Disregard it. That is not even secondary to our goals. That is an immediate disregard, because the most important thing is the greatest range of motion possible squatting while maintaining proper form and being pain-free. And if something violates that, yeah, but I can add 25 pounds in my back squat, but it feels really funky in my low back. Who cares? Who cares about the 25 pounds in your back squat? That is so utterly and completely irrelevant, unimportant, that it's tough to even articulate how much that should not even be a concern. I would much rather have anybody do whatever the technique was or stance was or whatever was that had them squatting 25 pounds less and they feel good. That is what we want. That is what we're going for. And so that's the broad, big picture of why are we even squatting in the first place, and what are the big picture items that I should keep in mind to make sure that they never get violated. And maybe maybe the other one would be that it doesn't cause you pain yet, maybe, right? You found some way to squat more weight, to do something that doesn't cause you any pain, but then when you watch a video of yourself doing it, you're like, ooh, well, that doesn't look good. Didn't realize that my back was making that sort of a curve, or didn't realize whatever it was, but you're pain-free, right? But you analyze the video, and you know in your heart of heart that your former technique is not how it should look. But you're squatting big weight, and you're having no pain with it whatsoever. And you're like, well, I know that if I try to keep my form in this idealized fashion, there's going to be a little less weight on the bar. Good. That would be my recommendation. Squat less weight. You should always come back to those pillars. We're trying to squat and achieve the greatest range of motion possible with proper form and with being pain-free. That is, I would say, the non-negotiables, period, end of story, and everything else is less important than that, to include the time on the clock, the weight on the bar, any of those things. I got a little bit off track. It was a small rabbit hole. Let me make sure I get back to my notes here. Okay, I kind of stayed on track looking at my notes, because I wrote, who cares about going super low if your mechanics are compromised? Irrelevant. Now, if you can go super low and you're pain-free and your form makes everybody in the room smile, then you absolutely should do that. Absolutely should. So I've got a story to tell. Maybe it makes sense here. So, okay, now I'll stay on track. All right. So let's just say that you've, like Chris says, squatting all the way down, butt to grass, on back squats hurts his back. He says that in his comment. My initial, again, stop, don't do it. And now, ideally, you can take a look at what you have going on and try to find out why. Okay, like why when you go all the way down super low in a back squat, does it cause you some sort of a pain? And where is that pain? Is it, is it low back? He says it hurts his back, but is that where the pain actually starts, or is it in some other part or joint in your body that is causing stress on your back because you've got some sort of limitation somewhere else? So ideally, you would not do that range of motion or loading that causes you pain. Then, try to find out why is that happening. There's the potential that, all of us have our limits, unless we're in Cirque du Soleil or something like that, of flexibility. And so you might be good to go 2 inches below parallel, which is still below parallel, but then you go all the way down, downtown, butt to grass kind of a thing, butt touching the floor, and to get down there you've compromised your spinal mechanics, or you've run out of, flexibility, and you have just put yourself in a position that you don't want. That's causing pain. If that's the case, then wherever you can squat well, if it's 2 inches below parallel, that's where you stop until you increase your flexibility, range of motion, or maybe that's just what you've got. I can tell you for myself, 20 years ago, I broke my pelvis, which I've said this multiple times. I've got plates and screws holding it together. And, while the pelvis obviously runs to both sides of your body, there's definitely more damage that occurred on the right hand side of my pelvis, and that affects my right hip. Just got chronic pain that I live with, etc., etc. And even though I squat and I do these things, which greatly increases my range of motion and helps preserve it and keeps me functional, as years go by, it just gets tighter and harder to keep that range of motion. And when I'm warming up, there's a noticeable difference between how good it feels to squat down and get below parallel on my left side and how tight and potentially restrictive it feels on my left side versus my right side. It's very obvious. And so that's something that I have to be cautious of. It's just, that's my body, that's my thing that I have to deal with. And Chris, you might have yours. So I found for me, a good set of Olympic lifting shoes helps significantly, because getting that heel lift, it just puts my body into a better position, which allows me to get below parallel without causing that pain in my hip. So you might be able to find some sort of mechanical advantage through lifting shoes or something like that helps you out. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't just say I'm going to put on these lifting shoes and accept that range of motion. I still am stretching and working and trying to maintain and preserve it as is. But if I want to have a good below parallel squat, just because of that injury compounding from years and years and years, I've got to throw on a pair of Olympic lifting shoes. So try to figure out what it is, improve flexibility, address the issue if you can find it, check out some lifting shoes, something like that, and get yourself in a good position that does not cause you pain. So part of your question here, let me see. You mentioned you used the phrase unnecessary range of motion. Where was it? Okay, it's in the second part of your question. But going all the way down but to grass for back squats, and it seems to be too much unnecessary range. That causes some pain in the back squat, but he says it seems to be too much unnecessary range of motion on my thrusters. So based upon that question, unless I'm misreading it, it seems like going very low causes Chris pain on the back squat, but going very low, that same depth, does not cause pain on the thruster, but just seems to be an unnecessary range of motion. So we addressed the pain issue and how that should not be allowed, right? So we'll kind of put that one to bed for a second. So now let's handle this other issue, because I think it's also fascinating. The phrase unnecessary range of motion on the thrusters. So let's assume for a second that on Chris's thrusters, which generally are less loading than the back squat, right? He's pain-free and the mechanics are beautiful. All right, those are the assumptions we're going to make. Thrusters for Chris, pain-free, form is beautiful. Well, now the question becomes, should I still go down really low? Seems like an unnecessary range of motion. Again, I would get back to how we framed the question initially, which was, why are we squatting in the first place? Okay? And this is how I would present it to us, which we are recreational athletes working out to have the strongest, fittest bodies possible for life, for sport, and to live a high quality life for as long as possible. And that's why I said I would encourage you to develop the greatest range of motion squatting that is pain-free with good mechanics. So now we're assuming Chris's thrusters are indeed pain-free and with good mechanics. But where does the thruster come up? Yes, you can do thrusters on a strength day, but the overwhelming majority of time, they're going to be with a moderate or light loading in a multi-round mixed modality workout. 3 rounds for time, Fran, something like that. And these are workouts that are generally done for time, right? Where a strength day is not for time. My coffee's now cold. That's repugnant. They're generally done for time, and it gets into CrossFitters' heads, right? Well, I'm trying to do it for time. I want to put up the fastest time possible. That's what's really important. Chris, I'm not projecting this onto you, but this is just, I've heard this enough that I think it will connect with some people. I'm trying to get the fastest time possible, and if for a thruster to quote-unquote count, Well, all I need to do is get below parallel. It doesn't say I have to go butt to grass. I just have to get below parallel. Even a half inch below parallel is below parallel. And I can do 21 thrusters just going a half inch below parallel faster than I can do 21 thrusters butt to grass, because maybe that's 4 or 5 inches deeper below parallel on every single rep. Well, on 21 reps in the first round, that adds up to a certain number of seconds, and then 15 in the second round of Fran, 9 in the third round. That adds up to seconds. So why in the world would I do this quote-unquote unnecessary range of motion? That, I think, is a fascinating topic. I would also encourage you to throw that out the window, because now I think that gets it into people's heads of, well, I'm only going to do what I have to meet some standard that was put out in competition or whatever it happens to be as what's a legal thruster. You still should be upholding the tenets that will keep your body the most capable machine possible for the longest time possible, and that is developing the greatest range of motion possible with proper form that's pain-free. And so if you can do thrusters with proper form and pain-free and go very low, even though it might quote-unquote fall into unnecessary range of motion in a competition setting, we're not doing a competition setting. We're trying to strengthen our bodies. And so I would always encourage you to strengthen your body through the greatest range of motion possible. Because maybe then as you get older, and little by little, that tightness just creeps in. I mean, that just happens to all of us. There's a reason that you're going to be less flexible at 85 years old than you are at 35. It's just how it goes. Well, while you have the option available, why not develop the greatest range of motion possible? And if that means your Fran is 11 seconds slower, who cares? Because the 11 seconds on Fran isn't the point. Because either way, it's a high-intensity workout. Either way, it's a short time domain, right? Either way. Develop the greatest range of motion with proper mechanics and pain-free. And there was a games athlete who shall remain nameless, so I don't throw them under the bus. And I was in the same room working out with them, and it's not my wife, by the way. This is many years ago. And they were doing front squats, heavy front squats. And I was familiar with this athlete. They were very flexible. And I watched them doing front squats, and they did front squats to, I mean, literally like the competition standard, like a half inch below parallel. It was, without question, a legal front squat, no doubt about it. And I asked them, I was like, out of curiosity, I know that you can, with beautiful mechanics and everything that you need, go significantly deeper than you're doing. Why are you not doing it? Why are you stopping like a half inch below parallel? And their response was, well, I don't need to squat any lower in competition, so why would I worry about that? And not wanting to get into a philosophical discussion of training versus real life, I just said, very well, carry on with your life, have a good day. In my mind, if they were my athlete that I was coaching, games athlete or not, I don't care, that wouldn't be the squat that we would develop. We would develop the greatest range of motion possible. Because also, if you're only training yourself to stop on what's a quote-unquote legal squat in competition, but you can go deeper and look beautiful and be safe, well, what happens on that one time in life, in competition, in whatever? Let's say you always trained that way, just met the minimum standard even though you could do more range of motion. What happens on that one time, and this is a competition athlete, so there's a good chance that they're going to be doing a clean and jerk or something in a competition, and they're going to be fatigued or trying to get points on the board, so they're going to try to go for some big weight, and you're going to receive that barbell all the way down. Downtown is where you're going to receive it, as low as you can possibly go, and you're going to have to try to get that barbell and squat it out of the hole. Well, guess what? You've never trained that range of motion. Why would you expect it to work magically on competition day or whatever it happens to be? Now, sure, maybe through competition with everyone screaming, you got all the adrenaline going. I get it, lifts happen like that. But point being, you're not setting yourself up for the greatest chance of success. Work the greatest range of motion possible. And that story right there, there's two sides to it, and we can go back and forth and have a philosophical discussion. But I think that's one of the problems, if that's even a fair word to use, of how some sort of like competition mindset or rules can just seep in and penetrate into recreational athletes' mindsets or training, and I don't think it serves them well. Competition's a wonderful thing. Love watching it, but there's some choices that people make, some ways that people find a shortcut range of motions. Well, the rules didn't say I couldn't do this, so I found this little loophole and I'm going to be faster. That's stupid for us recreational athletes. That's not what we're trying to do. We are trying to do the greatest service that we can to our bodies every day. And so that's how I would kind of approach that. And then maybe the last part of Chris's question says, leaning forward on back squats moves more weight for him, but it hurts his back. So here, if I had to insert, and this is not intended to be sarcastic, right? This is just honest, real talk here. If I had to insert points into that sentence, here's what it would be. Leaning forward on my back squat moves more weight. Who cares? But it hurts my back. Care very much. So, moves more weight, great, but who cares? Hurts my back, ooh, that's the part of the sentence that we care about significantly. So, the simple thing to that is, well, I would not do that, sir. So, Chris, if leaning forward on your back squat moves more weight, but it hurts your back, I would not lean forward on your back squat, and I would move less weight. Period, end of story, for sure. And, without more context there as well, there's also there's multiple different types of squats, right? And actually, I think Adrian and I talked about this in a very not random podcast about the squats. But just to oversimplify, there's a high bar back squat and a low bar back squat, and the two are just kind of how they sound. The high bar back squat has the bar sitting higher up on your back. The low bar back squat has it sitting lower on your back. With the high bar back squat, generally speaking, your torso is going to be more upright. With a low bar back squat, your torso will have a bit more forward inclination. Also, generally speaking, the greatest loads that have ever been lifted with a back squat have been done with the low bar back squat, not with the high bar back squat. You're free to do either one on a heavy day, and I mean that completely. Again, just make sure that they have proper mechanics and that they're pain free. That's it. You're absolutely free to do both. If you told me that I could only do one of those for the rest of my life, would it be the high bar or the low bar? I would choose the high bar back squat, even though, there's the chance that in a very talented lifter they'd be able to lift more of the low bar back squat. I get that. But for us generalists, general physical preparedness, recreational athletes, that high bar back squat, which demands more of an upright torso, that body position has greater transference to other movements that we regularly do in our training. That upright torso is what you're going to want for an overhead squat. It's what you're going to want for a front squat. It's what you're going to want to receive a squat clean. It's what you're going to want for a thruster. It's what you're going to want for a wall ball. Nice upright torso. So the high bar back squat really kind of reinforces that position. Both are fantastic squats. If you want a low bar back squat, go for it. But just understand the difference and make sure that you're being safe regardless of which one that it is. So hopefully that was useful for you, Chris. All right, final most upvoted question is from Nasos. Let's see. When I meet you in person one day, you can shake me aggressively and say, "You're not pronouncing my name properly." Sorry, brother. All right. So his question is, can you share some tips for someone who got injured? How to escape the fear of getting injured again? I got injured on my lower back when deadlifting. It was a good lift for me, and now I can't even think of doing it again. Yep, it's funny. This is also something that Adrian and I just spoke about recently. We just recorded a very not random podcast yesterday that'll probably get published in a few weeks because we've got a few in the bank. And Adrian led off in the podcast saying that he just recently strained or tweaked his back on everything that appeared to be a good lift. So we kind of chatted about that for a second. But anyway, so sure, here we go. I'll talk to you about the stuff that I've done in CrossFit, because like I said, most of my actual significant injuries is not from CrossFit, it's from military and motorcycle wrecks, the broken pelvis, separating my AC joint, other dumb stuff that I've done that really haunts me to this day, overwhelmingly has not been through working out. What's happened to me through 16 plus years of CrossFit is really, really minor. Let's do some quick math. Let's say that I worked out 5 times a week times 52 weeks a year. That's 260 workouts a year times 16 years. It's 4,160 workouts, let's say, I've roughly done. So roughly somewhere over 4,000 CrossFit workouts. In 4,160 or more CrossFit workouts, there's like only a handful of times that I can say I did something. That's an amazingly low percentage. It's not even near 1%, right? So about twice I've strained my hamstring. I got an umbilical hernia, and I strained my back recently. So I'll discuss all 3 of these right now. The couple hamstring strains, both of them happened on the exact same workout a couple years apart, 10 by 100 meter dash. And I can tell you exactly why they happened. It was not the workout's fault. It was not whoever invented sprinting. It wasn't any of that stuff. It was my fault. Both of those times, I did not warm up properly. I rushed it. I somehow rationalized in my head as to why it'd be okay. And I'll just treat the first couple hundreds as a warm up, and then I'll get after it. And somewhere around sprint 6 or 7, one of my hamstrings, it didn't tear luckily or rip or anything. It just balled up like a serious muscle spasm that let me know if you try to do the next sprint, you will have something significant happen. And both those times I just stopped. I was like, dang it. Rolled it out, took it easy, did my best to relax for a week, and slowly came back and everything was just fine. So that's, relatively minor, but that's the 2 things in my hamstrings. And having done it twice, don't ever want it to happen a 3rd time. I now am really, really diligent to make sure when I do a sprint day, there might be some days out there that I can shortchange a warm-up if I have to, because life has gotten a little crazy, but a sprint day is not one of those days that I can shortchange a warm-up. Period, end of story. And so I either give myself the time to warm up properly, or I've got to find a different workout to do. It's just that simple. And so, yes, the next, and to this day, I remember what that feels like. So when you're talking about fear of getting injured again, through properly warming up, that alleviates that fear because I know why it happened. And then even like a 10 by 100 meter dash, I'll make sure I do a small handful of practice sprints even after I warm up to make sure that I am feeling good. Do some at 50%, 70%, 85%. I'm like, okay, feeling good. Now we're going to go. And I'll just listen to my body a lot better. The umbilical hernia, that was several years ago. And to be honest with you, I can't tell you the exact mechanism of injury that caused the umbilical hernia. I just noticed it one day in my belly button, this little protuberance, this little, nodule that was poking out a bit. And I was like, what the heck was that? And I could push it back in. I was like, that's not normal in the human body. And I just didn't do anything with it for well over a year. I just lived with it and continued to deadlift and squat because, quite frankly, I was just dreading having to get surgery on it and having to go through that process, but I should have just done it sooner, because the sooner you do it, the sooner you recover. I eventually got the umbilical hernia surgery, got the mesh put in, and that was that was a tough one to come back from, both physically and mentally, because, well, physically, in order to let something recover, you have to lay off of it. Well, your umbilical hernia, we're talking about your abdominal wall, we're talking about your midline. It's really tough not to use your midline to let it recover, because you use your midline doing everything. Going from a seated to a standing position off the couch, you brace your abdominals, literally doing everything. And so for however long it was, 6 or 8 weeks, to be like, hey, you can't use your midline, I really couldn't do anything at all. Like I was down, inoperable. And anyone who knows me and has listened to these things, I have to work out for my mental sanity, or I'm going to be checked into a clinic. And so not being able to work out how I wanted to for a long time was profoundly difficult and grinded on me mentally. But I realized that the long-term gain was worth the short-term inconvenience and frustration of having to take my time and be patient. And I wanted to come back 100% for the rest of my life and not rush back to 75% for the rest of my life. And so I forced myself to do it. We actually did a very random podcast, I think it was episode number 5, on coming back from an injury. So you should check that out, actually, if you haven't listened to that one. And then when it was time, the 8 weeks was over, hey, you can lift something more than 20 pounds now. Well, I didn't just go out the next day and feel confident pulling a 1 rep max deadlift, I'll tell you that. I was still a little gun shy and a little nervous, and so I just allowed myself, the grace and patience to keep scaling, even though I was so eager to come back. Be patient, give yourself time, baby steps, crawl, walk, run. Who cares about my old loadings? They'll come back. Who cares about my old times? They'll come back. As easy as it is for me to say that, and as difficult as it is to do, I really had to frame it in what is more important to me. Coming back correctly, 100% for the rest of my life, or rushing back to say, hey, look at me, I got a great Helen time, 8 weeks after surgery. Oh darn it, I tore the mesh in my abdominal wall. Didn't want to do that. So scaling loading, scaling intensity, the whole 9 yards, working anything else that I could that worked around the injury to the best of my ability. Coming back slow, who cares? And coming back slow, again, as easy as it is to say, as difficult it is to do, scaling the loading, scaling the intensity, and just incrementally building it back slower than you think you need to, what that allows you to do between the ears is build confidence that you actually have healed, that you actually do feel good. And each little progression that you have in intensity or loading, it just reinforces that and it builds that confidence. And then after whatever period of time is appropriate, you'll be back to where you are and you'll actually be back 100%, and that's what we want. So that's the hamstrings and the umbilical hernia. And the most recent one, the tweaking of my back, actually I don't think I've mentioned this to now. This happened 2 weeks ago, within the last 2 or 3 weeks. And it was on that day that we programmed an EMOM, and one of the minutes had deadlifts at 225 for men, 155 for women, and the next minute had bar facing burpees. I think everybody remembers that one. It was a stinger, right? I don't want to blame my baby for it, but I'm about to blame my baby. Because, God bless her, love her to death, it was just one of those many days that has happened since we've had that little child, that how I thought I would be able to work out, the amount of time that I thought that I would have, whether it just got grenaded, it just disappeared. And as happens regularly now in my life, I was suddenly presented with, hey, you got to get the workout in now, immediately, or it ain't going to happen today. And I said, okay, my dumb ego got in the way. I said, okay, I'm going to go rush into the garage and just do it right now. And I did actually put a small amount of thought into this, because I was like, oof. I remember having these little voices in my head, and even after all these years of CrossFit, sometimes I can still rationalize the voices away and make a dumb decision. I am human. And I remember thinking to myself, ooh, this is a short time domain, high intensity workout, you're supposed to be moving quick. I'm not going to get in a good warm-up at all. That's not smart. And then I rationalized. So that was the truth. And then I rationalized it to myself. I was like, yeah, but come on. 225 is like 50% of your 1 rep max deadlift. So yeah, you didn't get in a warm up at all, but you can move 225. I mean, come on. Like, you're going to be okay. Like, just take it easy. So I was like, yeah, that's right. That's right. I'm going to listen to that voice. And it was a bad call. It was a bad call. I did the workout and I actually felt fine during the workout. I felt slow and lethargic because I wasn't properly warmed up. And I did the workout, and then after the workout, I was walking back into the house thinking that I had a successful session. Like, yeah, all right, got it. Get back in, get back on the computer, take care of the baby. Great. Knocked out that fitness, didn't get to warm up, but hey, made it happen. Great. Made it happen, Pat. Good job. And then as my body like cooled down a bit, my low back started talking to me. And it wasn't injured. I did not injure myself. It's probably more like the sprinting story that I told, where there was a strain or a spasm or something was just, here's my highly professional term, something was unhappy. And it let me know, if you don't give me some time, unhappiness will move to another level that you don't want to deal with. And I was like, oh no. I felt my low back. I was like, that's not normal. That's not good. Dang it. What happened? And so for about the next 1 week, I just didn't run a clock. I lowered some loading. I allowed myself to move very slowly. And I almost used each workout that I did as just a movement session, a therapy session, or a rehabilitative session. And I did some plank holds, some side plank holds, some regular plank holds, and just moved around a bit, rolled out, and just gave myself time. And, for a week had poor times, poor loadings. Whoop-de-doo, who cares, right? I have to drink my own medicine when I say every now and then, like, who cares? I had to keep the big picture in mind, which was, hey, do you want to rush back and start pulling loading again? And now something which could have dissipated in your back and you feel good, well, now it's your little friend that never went away because you were impatient. Or do you want to give yourself whatever it demands? 7 days, 10 days, 14 days. Slow down the workouts, reduce the loading, don't be a hero, get your ego out of there, move your body, eat well, get some rest, and then you'll be okay. And that's what I did. And it feels great and fine and normal and all of that. So that might be, potentially a less severe example of what you're talking about, but the overall theme on how to deal with it both physically and mentally stays the same. So if you've got something going on that you actually think is significant and substantial, obviously I hope it also goes without saying to, seek out the professional counsel of somebody who is in the medical industry, physical therapy industry, and does this for a living. Get them to check you out, and then truly take your time coming back, because come back to 100%, no matter how long it takes. Don't rush back to 80%. So that's that. Okay, we'll finish with some shout-outs. I've got a couple just shout-outs in general, then we'll do the screenshots that I take off of the Linchpin Instagram page. So, not Instagram, but Facebook. So just shout-outs in general. And I should do this more often, and I don't, and I apologize. Shout-out to Matteo P. out there in Italy. Shout-out to Carl Stedman out there across the pond. Those gentlemen work together every week and produce an adaptive athlete video based upon a Linchpin workout of the day. They provide scaling options and all kinds of awesome just information, and they just do it out of the kindness of their hearts. And it gets uploaded to the CrossFit Linchpin YouTube channel every week under the Adaptive Athlete playlist. That's phenomenal. Gentlemen, you guys are awesome. Thank you for doing that. Jay. Every week Jay produces content for kids, and that lives on the CrossFit Linchpin playlist entitled Kids Content, Kids Workouts. He just does that out of the kindness of his heart. He puts out amazing information. Thank you. You're awesome. Nick B. Everybody knows him. He's posting regularly in the Facebook group. He helps in tremendous ways on the administrative side of the house and just run the Facebook page and things like that. I don't give him a shout out as much as he deserves it. Nick, it's much appreciated. Eric, online coaching in the private Facebook group. Just is a fantastic coach, great at coaching virtually, does it out of the kindness of heart, just loves helping people. It's fantastic. Again, the members of our community boggle my mind. And then lastly, Amy B. She, just out of the goodness of her own heart, took the reins on, I guess, what has now become known as the Linchpin Scholarship Fund, which, if we get members that find themselves in hard times, we've got other members that just chip in and pay their membership and subscription for 6 months or a year or something like that, just out of the kindness of their heart. And Amy organizes that and makes sure that's all good to go. It just, when I say that we have an amazing community, that it just boggles my mind as to how we got all these incredibly awesome people from all around the world in one place. I truly mean that. It's insane to me. And Linchpin members and Amy just recently helped out some people from over in the Russia and Ukraine area in the world that are members of the Linchpin Private Track. And based on the horrors that are going on over there and the sanctions and economic sanctions and things like that, and banks have shut down credit cards, but there was a couple of Linchpin members that their subscription was going to get canceled because their credit cards no longer worked. There were Linchpin members, and one of these individuals from Russia was like, been loving Linchpin, so sorry, hey, with everything that's going on in my country, my credit card is now being declined. I bid everybody farewell. When things are less hectic in the world, you'll see me again. There was 2 Linchpin members that commented on his post and told him, even though they had never met the individual before, hey, nope, not on my watch. We're going to kick in some money and float you for the next 6 months and hope everything's cool for you over there, and hope you and your family are safe. Are you kidding me? I don't even know what to say about that. Those are the people that we have in the Linchpin community. So anyway, it's an honor. It's an honor for me to even be associated with it. So also on the CrossFit Linchpin YouTube channel, there's the Garage Gym Tours playlist. I've been loving it. I think we've got 50-something videos now because people keep sending them in. I keep posting one a day. If I haven't opened your email yet, I will. I'm opening them in the order that they were received. It's another 20 waiting in the queue. If you're a member of the Linchpin Private Track, film your garage gym, home gym, apartment gym, barn gym, basement gym, wherever it is that you work out. Send that email, that video, put it on YouTube, and then shoot me the link. Email me the link at info, I-N-F-O, at CrossFitLinchpin.com. And when I eventually open it, I'll post it on our YouTube channel. It's super cool. Love seeing where everybody works out. Okay. Linchpin shoutouts from the Facebook group, screenshots that I've taken over the past couple months. So here we go. This one I've entitled No Cherry Picking. This is from Ben C, and it's on that disgusting workout that we did that was 1 up to 10, back down to 1 of burpees and strict pull-ups. Ben did burpees and ring rows. It took him just about 18 minutes, and he says, not too long ago, I would have cherry-picked this and just lifted heavy instead. But I tried to go slightly faster, push the pace. So basically, he has embraced doing things that are a bit outside of his comfort zone, and that is where the magic happens. So Ben, good on you for not cherry-picking. Next one. This is from Adrian S. Also very active in the Facebook group, very fine individual. Also heads up the Linchpin Book Club. I should have mentioned that as a shout out. Adrian just started that, and he posts the Linchpin Book Club in the Facebook group every now and then, and everyone takes photos of what they're reading. Adrian says, so he's been working low ring muscle ups. He hasn't had access to high rings, I guess, in quite some time. I imagine I was high-fiving a lot of you after getting down from these ring muscle ups. He posted a video. I haven't done ring muscle ups in a long time, and I hopped up and I connected 2 ring muscle ups in a row. If you don't have ring muscle ups and you can do low ring muscle ups, do them. I'm thankful that these get programmed to us. So yeah, as we always say, those low ring muscle ups, they will transfer over to the high rings, beyond a shadow of a doubt. And last one, I entitled this 9 p.m. workout. This is from CW CrossFit. Okay, and this was the workout 4 rounds for time of a 400-meter run and 50 air squats. Nasty, beautiful couplet. So, they say, there has not been enough hours in the day lately. Every time I try to get this workout done, something gets in the way. So finally, 5 days later, I did it when my son was in his room on the Xbox at 9 p.m. out here in the UK. A lap around the block is 425 meters and then 50 air squats in the flat so I can check on him. It forced me to run faster. Running sucks. How awesome is that? Making it happen with kids, 9 p.m. at night, running out there in the dark, living that hectic parent life, still getting the fitness in. Real life. That's what we're all about here at Linchpin, making smart decisions that are sustainable and supporting each other. So that's it. Another Ask Me Anything comes to a close. Hope everybody has a wonderful day. Enjoy your rest day. And I'll see you back in the group tomorrow.